So in today's episode, we are talking about McLaren and the release of their new Halo hypercar, the P18. We've got a client that's given us some insider information about the price and the payment structure. We also go on to an end of an era for Ferrari, with them stopping quite a few of their models and what the replacements are going to look like, and also their new Halo hypercar, the F250, which is a replacement for the LaFerrari. And is it going to be a V6 hybrid? Hello and welcome to episode 37 of the GVE London Podcast. And today I'm joined by George and Andreas, and we're going to be talking about all things supercars. So first thing I'd say to get onto is McLaren, and they've released their new Halo hypercar, which is a direct replacement for the McLaren P1.
Yes, super exciting times. Codenamed the P18, but this is now the direct replacement for the P1. So
P1 came out around 12 years ago, right?
yeah, roughly 12 or 13 years ago now.
That's a long gap.
It is, but they did bring out other hypercars in that time. So this is actually quite a funny one. A lot of people are thinking, would you class the Senna as a hypercar, or would you class it as a very expensive supercar?
No, come on, man. That thing's built for the track.
Yeah.
Well, how many horsepower is the Senna again?
800.
That's part of 850.
800, yeah, 850.
Wow.
So, okay, the funny thing is, you say, what would you normally class a hypercar on, price or horsepower?
I would have thought horsepower, because the big thing was about Bugatti Veyron, and then it was, well, that was 1,000 horsepower, right, when it came out. So that was the thing that defined a car being a hypercar. Now, obviously, the Senna is less than 1,000 horsepower, but I don't know, man. It's just like the looks.
That's where it gets interesting.
Yeah,
The Revuelto is close to 1,000. That's not a hypercar. Lamborghini are now producing a Temerario, the V8 twin turbo, which is going to be 1,000 brake horsepower. That can't be a hypercar. And then we look at price. The Revueltos are now the same price as what the Sennas have got to. You're able to buy Sennas for 500, 550,000. The Revueltos are now selling for 600, 650,000.
The way I see it is that the benchmark keeps on going higher for what a hypercar is. Obviously, the Bugatti, when it came out, there was such a big disparity between the Bugatti and whatever was before that. So it would have been, I guess, the Enzo, right?
Yeah, at the time, the Enzo. And then you have the likes of the F40, and then you have the likes of the MC20 from Maserati.
Yeah, exactly. So now, if you look at, in most recent times, what's happening is that the new technology is being implemented into the lower end models of the cars. So these cars are now pushing the 1,001 horsepower. Yeah. Right? And you can pick them up for 450 grand, 500 grand. When we look at what is now defined as a hypercar, surely it is something like Koenigsegg Jesko, which is around 1,600 brake horsepower, right? So surely that's what now the benchmark is. In order to be classified as a hypercar, you need to hit that.
Oh, yeah. It'll be raised again. Yeah. McLaren aren't giving away too much power on the P18. They're saying 1,100 plus horsepower. This thing's going to have at least 1,500 horsepower, easy.
But they come with their crazy... So, but you said that actually there's some another one, right? Which is the Pagani.
The Pagani Utopia, which has come out. But that's where it gets interesting. I don't think you can solely rely on price and horsepower. So the horsepower on the Utopia is 850. And you almost think, okay, if it has to be a hypercar, it has to be over 1,000 brake horsepower. But then there's more things to consider. You look at the weight of the car, the weight to power ratio. You look at the design, and there's so many other features that you look at, and the design features and whatever else they had to do to build that car that contributes towards the hypercar factor.
So downforce, aerodynamics,
exactly,
and the limited production as well.
Yeah,
I mean the Paganis are one of the most aerodynamical cars built, which is obviously designed by AMG, and I think am I right in saying it's done in with using their F1 technology as well?
The engines are still
controllers.
supplied by AMG, but I think all the design and stuff's all done by Pagani themselves. Yeah, I think Mercedes just supplies the power unit. So
this McLaren surely has to surpass this benchmark, whether it be in terms of BHP, but whether it be from 0 to 60 or, on the Nürburgring, fastest lap, whatever. Surely that's the other thing as well, right?
Yeah, the lap time. Is it going to be hitting that hypercar level of lap times? So Once again, it's just going back to where this all came from, that the Senna, I personally don't think is classed as a hypercar. I think it's just a very, very fast and very dramatic supercar. But then when they released the BP23, otherwise known as the Speedtail, that's definitely a hypercar. That was the three-seater F1 replacement. And now finally, the much anticipated P1 replacement, where people thought the BP23 was going to be the replacement. It wasn't. The Senna definitely wasn't the replacement for the P1. Now it is like, for McLaren to have built the first hybrid hypercar out there, this has to be special. And McLaren are always years ahead of everyone else. I always compare McLaren to the likes of Apple. That I think they hold back about 10 years worth of technology and sort of trickle it out into the rest of the community. And I'm sure McLaren are doing the same thing. So if you look to when they released the MP412C, which was 2011, 2010 sometimes, an early one, Ferrari only started using the technology that they were doing with the twin turbo engines with their 488s, which came out in 2016. It was like McLaren are years ahead of everyone else in terms of performance, in terms of how quick their cars are. They may have issues with reliability because they're so ahead of themselves, but it can't stop you from getting so excited about this hypercar coming out, because it's just how amazing is it going to be?
I reckon the McLarens they probably have the closest link between their roadworthy cars and their F1 cars. Would you say that's right?
I think Mercedes you'd have, like with the AMG 1, that's a very close link. The RB17, the Red Bull, that's a very close link.
Agreed.
No,
agreed on that side.
Yeah.
The hypercar, like that, flagship car might be Mercedes, right? That has the closest link.
Yeah.
But surely with all the other cars, so I'd say surely the McLarens, in terms of a mass-produced supercar, is more closely aligned to their F1.
A lot of those elements will come down to every single car that they produce. Yeah,
because that's what they concentrate on, right?
It's Formula One first, and then it's road cars. Yeah. Where Mercedes is like, well, we got road cars, and we also have a Formula One team.
Yeah,
and when
that's actually a good point. That was the big thing about.
McLaren always was first to do Formula One.
What was it? The whole thing about Ferrari.
Yeah.
So Ferrari, the actual brand was. They had to make road cars in order to survive in the Formula One, right?
To sustain it. Mercedes came into Formula One later, as a big marketing tool, and that drove their sales up, because they started winning, But McLaren, Ferrari, they were a race team that then they started producing road cars. So it's, that's the defining thing. When you walk through MTC, you see the miles of trophies, like you go in there and their number one focus is we are a winning team. And that's their number one focus with everything, and you see that and you feel that when you walk in MTC. With Mercedes, you go down their museum and it's all about their history of innovation and safety and all that. So that's kind of what they're and they've got a few Formula One cars here and there, but you can see the difference of what the brand is really about.
Huh? Do you know what's going to be actually pretty awesome as well? You just reminded me of what you said there with the whole F1 thing. This new hypercar McLaren are releasing is coming at a time when McLaren are at their most successful time in the F1.
Correct.
So now they are potentially going to win the Constructors' Championship. They're leading in the Constructors' Championship, which has happened after how long?
Since 2012, they were last leading the Constructors.
That's insane. That's 13 years.
And they haven't won it since 1998. That was the last time McLaren won the Constructors' World Championship.
I'm pretty sure they're going to win it this time around as well, because McLaren are looking insane with their F1 cars. Which comes to think, could this be one of their best ever hypercars to hold as an investment since the F1?
But investment, that's a good point, right? Now, we've got some insider information about this, right? We can't say who's told us it, but somebody's told us it. That it's going to be around £2.2 million, plus the options on top, and that includes VAT. It's a 2026 delivery, and it's going to be available in left-hand drive and right-hand drive.
Which is interesting, because P1 was only left-hand drive.
I mean, my view on that is actually quite cool. I think, if it's just left-hand drive, it means that it's open to the whole world.
Yeah.
However, it means that it can't get into certain countries as well. So there's your likes of Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, all these places that only allow right-hand drive cars to come in. I wonder how they managed to get it in and make it roadworthy.
Especially now, I was having a conversation with someone earlier, but the UK have the cheapest cars in the world.
Really?
The cheapest cars in the world.
Wow.
Europe have some very expensive cars in comparison to what we have. So if you look at a right-hand drive, for example, let's say a right-hand drive SF90 going for just under 300,000 over here. The cheapest SF90 you'll find in the European market is going to be around 400,000 to 500,000. So there's a massive price difference.
I got told yesterday about Turkey. BMW i7 in Turkey will set you back something like 350 to 400,000 pounds.
Wow.
Really?
That's
Imagine
crazy.
that for a 120,000 pound car down here. It's just because of the luxury tax and import duties and whatnot. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, right? Before they've even disclosed any images of the car, any videos, they're wanting customers to put down £250,000 down as a deposit, right? Within 14 days. And then another 250 grand by the end of the year. And then the third deposit, which takes it to 30% of the value of the car. And then you can lock in the spec and whatnot. That's just crazy, man.
I guess there is some reason behind that. It kicks out the speculators, people who'd want to be buying it to flip it. You have to have some serious
trust,
to be able to say to a dealer, here you go. I don't know anything about the car, but here, take 250 grand. I'm a collector. I don't care about it. I will hold on to it. Whereas your speculators,
McLaren notoriously, it hasn't been the safest brand to invest in terms of their like flagship cars, right? Sometimes you can get lucky. And we saw it, like on P1s, on 675 LTs and 765s as well. We've seen them have that initial huge rally, but then we've also seen them
drop very quickly down as well. But I think their halo cars, their hypercars have always held their money pretty well. And if once again you look at this being limited to 400 units, that is definitely a factor that goes into this being a good investment going forward as well. So to have a hypercar, which is going to be your P1 replacement at the same time when McLaren are winning the Constructors title in F1, there's a lot of factors coming together to make this, I think, a winning remedy. And
obviously, whichever driver or both drivers that are doing so well in the season, they're probably going to get one of these cars as well. So then you're going to have one of the same cars. We saw that with Hamilton as well.
They get offered them. Nico Rosberg got offered one, and Valtteri Bottas got one as the Mercedes. So these two will get them.
This adds to the value, isn't it? Probably get them for free as
well.
But
what makes it interesting with these cars, I think the differences between with the P18, the Ferrari replacement, this is no compromise. So this is McLaren, Ferrari, Porsche, saying this is what we can do. That's why it comes out every 10 years. Whereas the Senna, the Speed Tail, there would have been some sort of compromise there as to no, we don't want to make it as good as the P1, or hang on, we've got another car coming. So that's why they're holding everything back, and they're going to go bang. This is 10 years of research.
It's like they released this out, and then all their next kind of range that comes out after this has elements of this, right?
That's right.
Which is
exactly.
We've seen a lot of the other manufacturers do it.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting one. Ferrari have now bid farewell to their Roma and to the SF90, right? And I know that the 812 was a few months ago as well, right?
Yeah.
So they're now ramping up to release their new ranges, and then they've got their new Halo car also being announced soon. F250. So then it's this whole game of, if somebody wants that F250, they better start getting their names down on all these,
Correct.
more everyday supercars.
It's
right?
playing the game. I mean, let's say, for example, we don't even go up to the hypercar level and you talk about the SF90XX. Those are trading for $500,000 to £700,000 over list. Now, in order to have got that, you had to have bought a Purosangue, you had to have bought a Roma, you had to have bought a Roma Spider, had to have bought a 296 GTS. And all of these cars you'd have been losing, apart from the Purosangue, but all of these cars you would have been losing at least 30, 40 grand minimum straight away each time, minimum. But you play the game, and now all of a sudden you've been invited to buy the SF90XX. And one thing I found out through a good client of ours, we just bought their car the other day, that if you were invited to buy an SF90XX, all of those people are going to be the ones invited to buy the the LAF replacement. So you've got these people who've been buying for decades and decades all of these cars to compete against, and now you've got the new people who are coming in, buying all these new cars just to try and play the game. And it's almost like a never-ending cycle of how many people are they trying to get to buy their main Halo cars, and how much money must they be making for all of these cars selling as well.
Well, they make serious money, but I think the best thing about Ferrari is that they don't dilute their offering. So, you know, ultimately, we've seen all these cars go up in value so much, right? So, like a pretty flagship cars back in the day were your Speciales, and we're only talking about 10 years ago, or 10, 11 years ago, that, you know, a flagship model would have been at 250 grand, 250 with a good spec, right? 250 to 300 grand. And now that same flagship model,
double it, yeah.
Like what is going to be? Oh, there's pictures of the new SF90 successor, right? They've got the new SF90 replacement coming out, right? And so they've got these images, spy shots of where they're still using the SF90 body, but in camo. And it's definitely going to be a hybrid because they've got the warning sign, the electricity warning sign on it. But then you've got images of a, you know, pretty crazy looking body at the moment where you can't really make out any kind of design features. But
the test mule, they had that. Have you seen them, like when they did the LaFerrari, the old test mule, how ugly it was? It was just very boxy, and they covered up all the design, but they had to test the chassis, so but not give away any of the design. So that's what that probably is.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
This one looks like they're still driving it with a car cover on it.
Yeah.
And just cut some viewing panels out. And then they've got spy shots of the new F250 as well. So that just looks nuts.
It does.
Suddenly people have started coming up with renders of it as well. But yeah, I think for sure, I think if there's any brand that people should be maybe thinking of, you know, buying these cars up with,
is with Ferrari, 100%. Another really interesting thing as well is they're making so many more models than they were a couple of, even like as far as 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So you thought that they had their hypercar, and then they had their special edition cars, and then they had their sports cars, their supercars. But now you've got your supercars, you've got your limited edition supercars, you've now got the new SP range, which people would have thought is your Halo hypercars. And then you've got the flagship model, which is now the LAF replacement. So a lot of people got confused when they released the SP1 and SP2 Monzas, and they were thinking, is that the LAF replacement? And Ferrari made it very clear, like, this does not replace the LaFerrari. We have the LaFerrari replacement coming separately. So it comes, I think Ferrari are catching on to the fact that there is a lot of money to be made, because all of these Ferrari consumers worldwide are playing their game. They're buying all of their run-of-the-mill cars. They're making more models like the Portofino, the Roma Spider, which they said the Portofino, the Roma was meant to be the coupe version of the California. And then they go and release the Spider version of the Roma. So they're just, I do think in a way that they are taking advantage of the power that they hold.
Well, look, we've come out of a period where just people we've come out of COVID, where people have come up with this mindset of you only live once.
Yeah.
You know, life's too short. Let's spend some money that we've had in savings or whatever, right? And then they've just gone on a rampage. And then this is just a knock-on effect of Ferrari seeing that, whoa, bloody hell. You know, I mean, we saw it everywhere, right? We saw Rolex shops just fully sold out of every single model. We've seen car dealers just saying, you know what, we just don't have any more stock at the moment, and we're finding it really hard to buy stock as well. So I think everything has a lag, right? So they've gone through this period, and then they thought, okay, well, let's release some more models. Yeah. And
but it goes to show how clever Ferrari are in comparison to others. Lamborghini haven't released those many more models. You look at what else is available with other supercar brands like Porsche. Porsche are pretty standard on what they release, and they've been doing that
the same
thing all the time.
Again,
But really and truly, when you look into it, out of all the supercar manufacturers out there, Ferrari are the only ones who have upped the amount of models they're making. And it's just continuously going more and more and more and more. And it'd be interesting to see where it stops. Because I think after the Pura Sangue, they're now thinking that maybe these daily drivers is a good market to get into.
It really is.
So is it now going to become this saturated brand that is now readily available to everyone, Ferrari? And are they going to lose a bit of their heritage and their provenance because of it? It'll be interesting to see.
Well, there is a bit of a stock problem though with Ferrari. Have you seen? They've got about 3 or 4 months holdings of stock.
No
that
way.
They can't shift. So
no way.
I think the whole kind of production.
Is that in a particular model?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's another reason why they stopped the Roma production. I think because there's a lot of unsold ones sitting around. You know, I mean, why would you sort of? I don't see the reason of sort of stopping a production of a Roma when you're still producing a Roma Spider. Like, I think there's other reasons as to why Ferrari are stopping production on a few cars. But
so it'd be interesting to see what kind of prices Romas are going for at the moment, right? We just bought a Roma in recently, didn't we?
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
And how much have we put that one up for?
So it's up for 235, which is around 35k below list.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's a
35K
brand new car, 300 miles.
Bloody hell.
You
But
know.
they do look nice.
Yeah.
I have to say the styling of them is really nice. But
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think they're going down the road of more of a daily driven car. You know, you look inside of them, you know, they're a lot more designed for that now, which is kind of what's good about the Ferraris. You know, they're trying to make them more usable on a daily basis.
my God, though. A coupe, a Roma coupe, you can get for 130 grand now.
Well, we just got offered one today, a footballer client of ours.
Yeah.
We put a trade offer in for 117,000 for it. And he said, yeah, without giving too much away and saying which car it is, but 120 grand he'd sell it for.
What?
No way, for a Roma.
For a Roma.
120 grand for a Roma. But look, you know what? There's 66 Romas on the market at the moment.
Yeah.
And that's without the stock that you're talking
And
about.
a lot of Ferrari can't advertise a lot of cars as well.
They
So there's a
can't.
lot more.
And
There's a lot more.
I can bet my bottom dollar that that you probably find some more on Ferrari's own website.
It'd be well over 100.
Yeah.
Well over 100 cars on the market.
Okay, so the Ferrari F250 is rumored to be a V6 hybrid.
Which I think is going to be a big mistake.
That's crazy. How can you make your flagship statement car?
I don't know about that. I don't know about a V6 in a hypercar. I mean, like in a statement car. I don't think that's a good idea.
A V6 hybrid, but what technology will go into something like that then?
Well, I mean, we're going to compare it to the LaFerrari, which was only a hybrid assistant, a battery assistance system to assist the V12. Where this replacement is probably going to have an electric mode alone, so you can drive it solely on electric, which is kind of what the P1 and the 918 were doing 10 years ago. So Ferrari have kind of caught up with that. But again, let's see what they're going to come up with. You know, are they going to have maybe a couple more electric motors for the front wheels? You know, maybe hopefully it's a V12. I mean, I hope it's a V12. But you know, what they're going to do is I'm really interested to see.
I sat in the hypercar that Lotus made, which is, I think...
Their electric one.
Oh,
electric
yeah.
one,
I've seen
the
that in
electric.
London.
What is that called
It looks
again?
so
Like,
good.
It looks awesome.
It looks
the part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would never guess that's Lotus. It looks like it's got hints of Lambo in there, hints of Ferrari.
A Chinese company bought Lotus and they pumped in billions into it. And, you know, that was, again, their kind of statement that, look, we are here to stay. Yeah, and that we're going to be at the forefront of supercars, right? Or at least sports cars.
It's funny, interesting you just said that, because I've always thought, what has happened to Lotus recently? They were really quiet and they're making decent cars, and now all of a sudden they're making like record-breaking, trend-setting cars.
Oh man,
I didn't realise they're just being bought out.
Oh yeah, it's been a couple of years, and their headquarters are amazing, like super cool. Right, and it's been the same headquarters that they've had for 50, 60 years, or maybe even more, 70 years. But you go there and you just see a field of all these. What's their base model now? Evora. Yeah, and so you've got a field of them. So I'm speaking to one of their guys, and he's like, I said, I don't see many of these on the roads in the UK. So where the hell are they going? They're like, America's one of our biggest markets. You know, China are buying a lot of cars from us. And so it's quite a cool thing that they're doing here. But I sat in the hypercar, and it just felt so soulless.
Oh, really?
It's so fast, man. Like, it's so fast.
Yeah.
Soulless because it's electric.
I'd rather drive the Evora than drive the
Because the engine.
There's so much hate towards electric cars now. So just recently, I'm sure you guys would have seen, it was the last ever episode of Grand Tour, which is the famous trio.
Yeah.
And in the final episode, and you think he's doing a drive in like a classic Ferrari or something. I haven't seen it yet, but Jeremy Clarkson sat there and he's like, I feel sorry for the new generation who have to be excited and look forward to electric cars, and you don't get that thrill to feel what these naturally aspirated or normal combustion engine cars are like. And he's like, if I'm being very honest with you, that's the reason why this is the last episode. Wow. I do not want to be reviewing electric cars.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. What a statement.
It's quite an iconic statement.
Yeah.
I feel it. A luxury car and electric is fantastic. I love it. And, you know, it feels like you're floating. It's very comfortable, right? But when you're driving a supercar, or, you know, like,
you want the vibrations, you want the thrill, the gear changes, the clunks. Yeah.
And you want to feel like you're in one with the car, right?
Yeah.
Like that when you're putting your foot down, that you're in control.
Yeah. You can't do that with an electric car, right? It's almost like it's doing everything for you. But when you drive a car, I mean, you take it back to heel and toe, and you take it back to how you downshift and you have to match up the revs. Just all of these things add to the excitement of driving, not just flipping through the gears and going really quick. Otherwise, what is the point of that?
And by the way, that Lotus Evora gives you that feeling, by the way, because they've got it in manual and auto. We've actually got one in the PPF bay at the moment.
Yeah.
But I actually had so much fun with that car. And it's 75 grand, 80 grand, but you're pounding it around a track, and you're just like, this is what it's all about.
Yeah.
Man. It's a lot of fun. Ferrari have the best record in maintaining the value of their halo cars, right? Albeit they probably dip during recessions and whatnot. But if you were to chart it, then you'll see that there's always a one-way trajectory on the price of their cars. Now, with the LAF, it came out at around, 1.2 mil was on
when they were released,
the road price?
just over a mil,
On the road, yeah.
And today, I mean, there's some very overpriced ones on Auto Trader for like 3.8 or 4.2.
4.2, actually, yeah.
Is it 4.2?
Yeah.
That's just unbelievable.
Anything over, in my opinion anyways, anything over 3.5, 3.6 for a coupe is way too overpriced.
Really?
100%. The Apertas should be probably about 4 million. That's realistic, 4 to 4.5 million. And even that's excessive because the Apertas were going for about 3.5 not long ago. Yeah. Which actually brings me back, I'm not sure if you remember, but just before COVID, we had the opportunity of buying a LAF coupe for 1.7 or 1.8 mil.
Yeah.
And
we didn't buy it.
Didn't in the end, no, because I think at the time they were trading online for about 2 or just under 2.
Yeah,
thinking,
There's not
and it's
enough
probably
margin.
a good thing
Yeah.
you didn't buy it because we then headed into COVID and it would have been the worst time to own that.
Yeah.
But I think when you're buying these cars, you have to think long term. It's not like a flip with a hypercar.
Yep.
Just know it's a guarantee. You buy a hypercar from Ferrari, it's a guarantee. Give it 5 to 10 years, you will make big money.
So this car, based on what we're hearing about the McLaren being 2.2 without options, so once you add options, probably 2.5, 2.6, Ferrari going to have to be more than that, hey?
Oh, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
3 million.
The SP3 Monza list price on those was about just over 3 mil.
So this is going to be
So
like
this is going to be
3.5
this is going to be probably 4 mil realistically.
Oh my God.
So
When
the
does it
SP3
stop?
Monza is trading at the moment. The cheapest ones that we can try and find are 4.5 million, 4.4 million. And there's buyers who are literally constantly, like every single day, this guy messages saying, have you found one yet? I'll buy one at 4 million. I'll buy one at 4 million.
God.
Have you found one? The list prices of them are just early to mid 3 millions. So, yeah, Ferrari
could be
know what
right.
they're doing. They're picking the price up on a daily basis. And I think
Bloody hell.
the LAF replacement, if it was a guess, that should be quite interesting actually to see what people will guess in the comments.
Yeah.
But I think the LAF replacement will be minimum 4 million.
Wow.
Actually, because the RB17 is 6 million, so it's not. I wouldn't be too far off. Ferrari's going to
fully sold out.
and Ferrari's going to be like, yeah, I want to beat Red Bull. So they could be like 6.1.
Yeah.
So you're going to see. Yeah, be surprised.
So there you have it, guys. Thanks for watching episode 37 of the GVE London podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, see you later.